191, we have a quorum. We may begin. If we would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the opening prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to welcome the Reverend Adrian Millick from Holy Ghost Parish, who will give us our opening prayer. Father Millick.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, we give you thanks for the gift of this day, for the gift of this community. We ask you to pour out your blessing upon us as we come together to discuss our future, support one another, we pursue what is truly. We ask you to open our hearts to hear another, to share all that is good. Please guide our deliberation, strengthen our community, town. May your love be upon us and guide us this day and always. In the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father. And if you could please remain standing for a moment of silence for the following deceased town employees. Patricia Flynn of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, Daniel Driscoll Jr. of the Building Department, Patricia L. Pierce from the Board of Selectmen Capital Improvement Advisory, the Historical Commission, the Board of Assessors, Thomas O'Horo, Finance Committee, Eva Bell Walther, the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, David Jubert, Insurance Advisory Committee, Gregory Eaton, Veterans Agent and Board of Appeals, Dominica Cosino, Council on Aging, Thomas Richard of the Whitman Housing Authority, Barbara L. Healy, Board of Selectmen Administrative Assistant, Business Manager, Citizens Advisory Committee, Ann Richard, an election worker, Frederick Small, the School Committee, the Bylaw Study Committee, the Building Facilities and Capital Expenditures Committee, the Recreation Commission, and the Finance Committee, Clarence Whitney Jr., Board of Appeals, Michael Lottie, Department of Public Works, Richard Avery, Department of Public Works and Southeast Sewage District, Ralph Mitchell of the Finance Committee, Pam Martin, Town Clerk, William Stafford, Capital Improvement Committee, and Stephen Verreel, Assessor. Thank you. Would the tellers please come forward to be sworn in? Please. And would the clerk please read the warrant?
Good evening, Plymouth SS, to either the constables of the town of Whitman. Greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Whitman qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet in Town Hall in said Whitman on Monday, the 5th day of May, 2025 at 7:30 p.m., then and there to act upon the following articles: Article 1 through 53 and Articles P3 through P7. And you are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting up attested copies thereof in not less than 8 public places in the town 7 days at least before the day of said meeting. Hereof fail not, and make due return of the warrant with your doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of holding said meetings, given under our hand the 7th day of April 2025 by the Select Board, Dr. Carl F. Kowalski, Chairman, Daniel L. Salvucci, Vice Chairman, Justin R. Evans, Clerk, and Sean M. Kane, Member. Warrant attestation. I hereby certify that by virtue of within warrant, I have posted 8 copies of said warrant in various sections in the town with 2 copies in each precinct dated April 24th, 2025, attested by William E. Sharnick, Constable. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just some notes on the rules and procedures that are governing town meeting tonight. All voters must be seated in the designated sections. Unless voted otherwise, all votes will be by voice vote. If I cannot tell, or if a vote is immediately questioned by 5 voters, a standing vote will be taken. When we get to the budget line items in Article 2, we are voting a consolidated budget this year. There's a budget worksheet with detailed breakdowns of each department budget at the back of the room, but we will be voting on the lines contained in the warrant itself. I will ask if there are any questions on the budget items. There's 35 of them. We'll go through them in 10 line segments. If you have a question about a particular item, just shout out question and the number of the line that you are questioning. After we go through that, I will read all the question line items. All line items that are not questioned will be voted on as the Finance Committee recommends. We will then have discussion and votes on each of the question line items. Massachusetts General Laws, Articles 1, 2, 3 of the town bylaws, and Robert Rule of Order govern the running of this town meeting. All amendments must be in writing and must be signed. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and be obvious. It's a big room. There's some distance involved, so please be obvious. Wait to be recognized. Once you are recognized, you can stand and go to the nearest microphone. There's one there. There's one up in the balcony. There's one here. State your name and your address. Please confine your comments to the article or question that is on the floor. You may not speak on the same question more than once until everyone who has not been heard has had a chance to speak. Thank you for attending. This is important business, which is essential to the function of our town. My goal is to complete all business tonight, and I ask that you remain for the duration of the meeting. In the event that we cannot finish tonight, I ask you to return tomorrow night. I want to thank the Finance Committee, these folks who are sitting here at the table right in front of me. They put in many hours working with the town administrator, the select board, department heads, and others to study each of the articles that pertain to finances and give their thoughtful and considered recommendations to this meeting. The committee's recommendations on each applicable article are found in the warrant. These people are volunteers who perform an essential service to our town. Please join me in thanking them for their service. If you are interested in serving on the Finance Committee, you may contact me through either the Select Board office or through the Clerk's office. The Chair of the Select Board, Mr. Kowalski, would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the town meeting tonight. And the town meeting tonight is going to be an interesting one, obviously, because of all the work that has been done by the Finance Committee, as Mike has mentioned. I'd like to thank some people specifically for the work that they've done to prepare for this meeting. Obviously, Mary Beth Carter, she and her assistant, Kathy Keefe, working with Justin Evans and Sean Kane and Kathy Otina to develop the way the budget is going to work out tonight, or the way it's going to be explained anyway. I'd also like to thank the department heads for going along with Mary Beth Carter's desire, her need to keep spending to its minimum. I'd also like to thank John Galvin for being a presence at our meetings and at the forums. While not always agreeing with everything that he said, he has devoted a lot of time and energy into following the procedures, not just this year, but years in the past. I'd also like to acknowledge a couple of people, Chris George, who just happens to be my cousin, but that's not relevant, and Randy Lamartina, for discovering years ago that there was a thing called a statutory agreement, and that was the way the assessments for each town, Hanson and Whitman, were to be developed. It was something that hadn't happened, and it caused some discomfort in Hanson. What Whitman did was to help Hanson overcome the gap in how much money Hanson had to pay for their portion of the assessment, and that's something that Whitman is proud of and should be proud of. I'd like to also acknowledge, obviously, Beth Stafford, the chair of the school committee, a person I've worked with for years and remembered when she was actually teaching my little son how to play soccer. And also Jeff Simonak, who came to a lot of the meetings that Mary Beth and Kathy Otina and Justin and Sean conducted over the past number of months. What I think about when I look out here today is the fact that for a lot of years, while I was being a selectman and while I was on the school committee, I couldn't stand the finance committee. They always seemed to be in the way of how I thought the town should spend its money. To see change this year with this finance committee and with this board of selectmen, they work together in concert to come up with a plan that we think is going to be the best for the town, or at least give the voters the opportunity to vote what they think is best for the town. And that's different. It's a different feeling. It's a good feeling to know that there's commonality there. I remember once being embarrassed, probably, and I forget how many years ago, but it was at one of the times when we were discussing what we should be giving to the schools. And I was embarrassed by the statistic that the per pupil expenditure in Whitman was in the bottom 10 of the 400 school systems in the Commonwealth, in the bottom 10. Despite the fact that things have been difficult over the last number of years, we are now at least in the bottom 20%, not the bottom 10, but the bottom 20%, which means that we're slowly going in the right direction, and I hope we can continue to do that. In 2017, in preparation for a strategic plan, and Sean Kane was really he was the one that kept urging us while he was on the selectmen and then before he was on the selectmen to come up with a strategic plan. We asked for a survey of our citizens, and the survey came up with a very clear statement that what we value are our schools, our public safety departments, and our DPW. However, we're not sure how we can pay for them. But those are the things that we value. If you look at the taxes in the neighboring towns, you'll see that we are low compared to the taxes in neighboring towns. I hope we keep that in mind. But Whitman has always been generous. The voters of Whitman, citizens of Whitman, have always been generous when times were tough. And I can recall years ago when there was, our youngsters were having trouble emotionally. And the citizens in the town founded the Whitman Counseling Center. I can still see Police Chief Travers walking down that corridor wearing his uniform, making a speech, so we have to do something to help these kids, help these children. It was a remarkable moment. We also have contributed as a town to the school system, to Whitman Hanson Will, to try to take care of students who are having trouble with substance use issues and emotional issues. This town does it when it has to. And that's the spirit I would like to end with today. I hope we have a good meeting, and thank you very much.
Ms. Carter?
Mary Beth Carter, Town Administrator. Good evening, and welcome to our fiscal year 2026 annual town meeting. Thank you all for taking the time to be here and participating in tonight's meeting. The annual town meeting is an essential forum where residents can come together to deliberate and vote on important local issues. Tonight, we will review and make decisions on the town budget, capital expenditures, zoning amendments, and other matters that shape the future of our town. Every vote you cast tonight and at the annual town election on Saturday, May 17th, will help to guide the path forward for our community. The town has a total of 14,497 residents and a total of 11,996 registered voters. At last year's annual town meeting, there were 266 residents in attendance. That is approximately only 2.2% of all registered voters. At last year's annual town election, we had a total of 1,771 residents vote, which is approximately 14.75% of all of our registered voters. The major decisions we make as a town, both at our annual town meeting and our annual town election, are made by a relatively small number of voters. Whether you are for or against an issue presented this evening and also at our annual town election in a couple of weeks, I encourage you to come out and vote at the town election, as every vote does count. I just wanted to take a few minutes to discuss free cash. Some of you may be aware of this municipal financial term, and some of you may not. Free cash in a municipality represents surplus revenues and unspent funds from previous fiscal years, which have been certified by the Department of Revenue. Free cash is not recommended to be used for recurring expenses, such as closing a budget deficit. Free cash should be used for fiscal stability by using it strategically. Free cash is most commonly used in towns to fund annual capital articles. This year, you will vote on several capital articles for items such as expenses directly related to our roads, sidewalks, town vehicles for the police department, fire department, and DPW. There are also capital articles on tonight's warrant for expenditures needed to maintain our various town buildings, which include the police station, fire station, library, and council on aging. The town's free cash is also used to fund the capital articles for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. Maintaining the town's roads, sidewalks, town buildings, and vehicles is critical to the overall operation of our town. On March 25th, 2025, the Select Board established a free cash policy. While most of the town's free cash each year is used to fund the town's annual capital articles, the Select Board adopted a free cash policy to outline 4 additional uses for free cash annually, which establishes good fiscal practices for the town today and in the future. The 4 additional uses of free cash are as follows. Number 1, 10% of free cash each year shall be allocated to the Capital Stabilization Fund. Funding the Capital Stabilization Fund annually will allow the town to better plan for the large capital expenses that cannot be funded in any one year, such as a new financial software system and a fire engine for the fire department. The new policy will also help to reduce borrowing needs for capital projects. Number 2, 10% of the remaining balance of free cash each year shall be allocated to the General Stabilization Fund. Funding the General Stabilization Fund each year will build the town's reserves in case of a catastrophic event. This consistent funding is a major factor which is considered when the town's bond rating is being evaluated. It also helps to improve the town's financial resilience. Number 3, a minimum of $200,000 each year shall be transferred to Article 2, Budget Line 35, Plymouth County Retirement Expense, until such time as the Plymouth County unfunded liability is paid in full. Funding a portion of the Plymouth County retirement expense each fiscal year with a transfer from free cash will help to offset the funds that would otherwise be funded in Article 2 from the general fund. This year, the Plymouth County retirement pension cost for the town is $3,571,311. This unfunded liability is expected to be paid in full in the next 5 to 7 years. And number 4, a minimum of $140,000 each year shall be transferred to Article 2, line 34, other post-employment benefits. Funding a portion of the town's OPEB unfunded liability each year with a transfer from free cash to the OPEB expense line in Article 2 will free up funds that would otherwise be funded in the general fund. For the past several years, this expense has been funded from the town's meals tax revenue. Making consistent contributions to this obligation has reduced the town's unfunded liability by $6 million. Again, consistently funding the town's OPEB unfunded liability is a major factor which is considered when the town's bond rating is being evaluated. Before we begin to vote the articles in tonight's warrant, I would like to outline the order in which articles will be considered. We will begin with Article 1 and proceed to Articles P3 through P7. And each year, we take the P prior year articles before Article 2, as these articles represent appropriations for the current fiscal 25 or a prior fiscal year, and they will be expended in the current fiscal year 25. After Article P7, I will make a motion to take Article 8 out of order. This is the override article. If Article 8 passes, which means it will go before the town voters at the annual town election on May 17th, I will make a motion to take Articles 18 and 19 out of order, as they are directly related to budget lines contained in Article 2. And Articles 18 and 19 are the Plymouth County contribution, a portion, $200,000 going towards the big amount that we owe, and $140,000 for OPEB. We will then proceed to vote Article 2 and all of the subsequent articles before adjourning town meeting. If, however, Article 8, the override article, fails on the floor this evening, I will make a motion to take Articles 9 through 14 and 49 through 51 out of order. These articles represent non-monetary articles which can be voted on this evening while we still have a quorum. We can still take care of a lot of business tonight. I will then make a motion to adjourn the town meeting to June 11th to complete the business of the annual town meeting. This evening, I encourage respectful discussion and active participation as we work together to ensure that Whitman continues to be a great place to live. And next, the Finance Committee Chair, Kathleen Otina, would like to say a few words before we move to Article 1. Thank you.
Ms. Otina.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kathleen Otina, 344 Washington Street, Finance Committee Chair. I rise tonight to provide this town meeting with an overview of the Finance Committee's recommendations for fiscal year 2026. Unlike last year, when the town meeting was presented with 3 different budgets to consider, the document you will be voting on tonight is the result of a year of collaboration and communication among all parties. Meetings began last August to ensure that the lines of communication were open. Preliminary budget information was generated by the town administrator in a timely manner and updated on a regular basis, giving the Finance Committee the information it needed as we began our meetings with all budget managers. We met virtually every Tuesday night from November 19th through April 8th, and unlike in many recent years, we had the time to review Article 2 and the capital articles, obtain answers to the questions we generated before we actually voted our recommendations. I want to give special recognition to our town administrator, Mary Beth Carter, who has worked tirelessly to generate a budget with frequent updates that made this process possible, and Sean Kane for initiating the budget working group that has led to thoughtful leadership and maintained open lines of communication. This has been a much more productive year. While this has been a more collaborative year, it has not been an easy year. Discussions for a need for a Proposition 2.5 override began in earnest in the fall, just as the budget season began. The budget the Finance Committee is recommending tonight in Article 2 has a deficit of just under $2 million that can only be bridged by the approval of a Proposition 2.5 override, as detailed in Article 8 of the warrant. At its March 25th, 2025 meeting, the Finance Committee discussed for over an hour and then voted unanimously to recommend to the Select Board a 1-year override that would bridge the budget gap for fiscal 26. The reason for recommending the more conservative one-year override was we believed it maintained transparency and accountability with the fiscal 26 funding sources solidly in place, and it would have a higher chance of being passed by the voters. As Mrs. Carter stated, I anticipate lively discussion tonight, and I hope that it is all maintained with respect for the different parties involved in these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Article 1, to see if the town will bring in their vote for the following town officers: 1 treasurer-collector for 1 year to fill a vacancy, 2 select board members for 3 years, 1 assessor for 3 years, 2 PK-12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Committee members for 3 years, 1 PK-12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Committee member for 2 years to fill vacancy, 1 PK-12 Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee member for 1 year to fill vacancy, 2 Department of Public Works Commissioners for 3 years, 2 Public Library Trustees for 3 years, 1 Whitman Housing Authority member for 5 years, 1 planning board member for 5 years, 1 board of health member for 3 years, and choose all other necessary offices. The polls for the election of officers will be opened in said town hall at 9 o'clock in the forenoon on said Saturday, the 17th day of May, 2025, and kept open until 5 o'clock in the evening, both of which days will constitute the annual meeting. And this call is issued in accordance with the vote of the town passed on January 29, 1902. Do I have a motion? A second. Discussion. All right, all in favor of Article 1, say yes. Opposed, no. The article is carried unanimously. Article P3, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $120 from free cash to pay a prior fiscal year FY 2024 bill to analytical balance for the Department of Public Works or take any other action relative thereto. Motion. Second. Discussion. All right. All in favor of Article P3, say yes. Opposed, no. The article carries unanimously. Article P4, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer from free cash $900.29 to pay the additional amount due for the pilot payment in lieu of taxes budget line 2 for the current year, FY 2025, payment to the town of Rockland for land owned by Whitman and located in the town of Rockland. A motion. Second? Second? Okay. Discussion of Article P4. All right, all in favor of P4, say yes. Opposed, no. Article P4 carries unanimously. Article P5, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $124,040.36 from the Reserve for Appropriation Cable Access Account to fund public education and government access programming in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 3/4, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion a second. Discussion of P5? All right, all in favor of P5, say yes. Opposed, no. P5 carries unanimously. To see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $935 from free cash to pay general code to update the town's bylaws to reflect changes approved at tonight's annual town meeting related to bylaw updates. Motion a second. Discussion of P6. All in favor of P6, say yes. Opposed, no. P6 carries unanimously. Article P7, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $213,228.78 from free cash to purchase and equip 3 cardiac monitors/defibrillators and automated external defibrillators for the town buildings or take any other action relative thereto. Motion a second. Discussion of P7? All right. All in favor of P7, say yes. Opposed, no. Article P7 carries unanimously. Ms. Carter.
I'd like to make a motion to take Article 8 out of order.
All right, we have a motion to take Article 8 out of order. Do we have a second? Discussion. All right, this does require a 2/3 vote in order to carry. So all in favor of taking Article 8 out of order, say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate outside the levy limit of Proposition 2.5, so-called $2 million, to be added to Article 2 budget lines 1 through 35, voted this date, thereby funding the town's operating budget and regional school district assessments for fiscal year 2026, provided that this additional appropriation shall be contingent on the approval of a Proposition 2.5 levy limit override under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21CG, or take any other action relative thereto. We have a motion and a second. Discussion of Article 8. Mr. Bezanson.
Brian Bezanson, 74 Rock Street, former member of the Board of Select. As the finance chair and the town administrator both said that we need to be civil and we need to respect each other. And before we had electronic devices that Mr. Salvucci and myself championed to get here, to take the intimidation factor away, because there are plenty of people here who may be for it or against it, but they feel intimidated. And there are empty seats here probably for that reason. So I'm asking you now, I will make a motion that we use this paper secret ballot for this question.
We have a second. We have a motion then to take a secret ballot. We can dispense with that, I suppose, at this point. Discussion on this motion to take a secret ballot. Ms. Connolly. Could you use the microphone, please, and identify yourself?
My name is Rosemary Conley. Rosemary Hill. Changed my last name. Rosemary Hill. And is there precedence for this? Because how do you know somebody's not writing two ballots? Or I don't know. Is there any precedence
We have a system for doing
for the
secret ballots.
ballots? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Any other discussion of the motion to have a secret ballot on this question? Okay. All in favor of doing a secret ballot on Article 8, say yes. Opposed, no. All right, we'll have a standing count then to determine that. If all in favor of the secret ballot would stand, please, and would the tellers please count those folks?
Just a minute.
Yeah. Yes. This is for yes for secret ballot. $33 on that side. How many? 24. Upstairs? 22. Okay. If you please be seated. And now would all those opposed to the secret ballot please stand? Upstairs. No. 32. 46. So the yeses are 80 and the noes are 134, so the motion fails. All right. Discussion of Article 8. Sir.
Edwin at 308 Raynor Ave. I just want to say, $2 million doesn't seem like a lot, right, in the grand scheme of things. But I can tell you, when you go to the Council of Aging, and as you become a senior and you're on a fixed income, that little amount makes a big difference, right? There was a lady that said, I have no teeth. And she showed us she had no teeth because she can't afford it. So it might seem like a little bit to some, and I got to tell you, I worked I had a long career and I made good money, so I didn't have a problem, when we came to decisions like this. But as you get older, it makes a difference. And today you may not see it, but I guarantee you, when you hit that age, you're going to feel the impact. So think about the other citizens in the town, please, as you consider this. Appreciate it.
Ms. Connell. Ms. Hill. Excuse me.
I want to thank you for what you said there. We do want to be careful about how we spend money and make sure that it's impactful. It's really important when we spend money that it's in a way that is long-term impactful. That means we're spending at a point in which we can maintain it and keep it at its lowest rate. Nothing sure but death and taxes. So when we're doing this, we want to make sure we're doing it at the appropriate service rate and the appropriate, we can't make anything nothing. We can't make anything for free. But I want to, if you want to take a second, when we were at the Council of Aging, we had a discussion for the school budget. And we had a discussion on what would the impact be if we don't pass the override and we make these cuts. And what does that do? If you take a moment here, it may not lead to the savings that you think, as a lot of these dollars, are, the educational line that's presented, are not the actual school budget. And even within that school budget, we have a portion that is charter schools. So I'm going to break out some of these numbers to demonstrate that cutting the school budget could risk a financial spiral of sorts. And I'm going to give you some numbers that we saw even come in with the cherry sheets this week of $90,000 of charter school money going outward. So, and a 200% increase in charter schools in the last 7 years, at the charter schools being a higher rate reimbursement. So if you just take a moment, because I have these numbers here. I apologize, I don't love speaking in public, so. Okay. Tonight I want to speak plainly about what's happening to our schools and what's being asked of us. The Department of Revenue has just released the updated cherry sheet based on the FY 2006 House budget. As a result of charter schools assessment for Whitman-Hanson has increased from $1.42 million to $1.5+ million. That unexpected $90,000 increase to our expenses, an increase that was not approved by our budget and now must come from somewhere else. And make no mistake, that money comes from our local schools only, because no other schools are being asked to take these cuts. Not the charter school, not the vocational school, and not the agricultural. Only our local public schools are being cut. Now, before anyone says that we receive charter school aid to offset these costs, we have to be honest about what that really means. Yes, the state provides temporary reimbursement, but only partially, and it only lasts for a very short time. It's a transitional window. After that, we pay the full cost. And right now, that cost is baked into our budget at $1.5 million, siphoning away from Whitman-Hanson's classrooms and programs every year. In 2019, our charter school assessment was $713,000 at 50 students. Today, it's over 1.5 for 84 students. And 225 new charter seats are being added to the area charter schools number, and it's only going to rise. Let's look at the cost comparison. The closest charter school to us is a $20,782 per student. A Horace Mann charter school, the closest one to us, is $31,880 per student. The vocational is in line with other vocationals, but it is $27,436. The agriculturals are much higher than those vocationals. Whitman-Hanson Public Schools is just around $18,196 per student. We are the best value in education. We are the most effective, most accountable, and most connected to the community, and yet we'll be the ones being told to cut again. When we cut programs, families look elsewhere, and every time a student leaves, we send more money out of district. More to charters, more to vocational, more to private options. It's a financial death spiral, and it's not sustainable. Just look at Provincetown, which outsources most of its education. Let's look at their per pupil costs for children, right? Of course, their structure is different, but they're an example of like extreme outsourcing. At $48,443 per student. Boston has high charter outsourcing at $31,000 per student. And yet, here we are doing a good job at roughly around $18,000 a student and being asked to cut. This is why I'm asking you to support the override, not just to protect what we have now, but to prevent for greater financial cost. Not only financial cost, there's a human cost. A human cost with not having your emergency vehicles, not having the roads done correctly. When we first had an expert come in, he said this override would be $5 million. There were steps taken. Now, I am unaware of any public record that gave credit to the people that were given credit for this. There is no public, but in public meetings, the Finance Committee, headed by the chair, and the people here identified the money diverted over to Hanson, which was suppressing our school budget. For the first time in a while, we're starting to see kids not go over to other schools for different school choices because we've had that increase in shared investment with Hanson. We're starting to see the beginning of something. And to go back on that would be, again, what I demonstrated here in those numbers. It's a mistake financially. It doesn't save us long term. Again, there's financial and there's human cost here. Please, it's not fun to be asked for another $2 million. I have 2 children going to college right now. I get it. It's going to be hard. I'm going to eat a lot of pasta and rice myself. But you're worth it, and our kids are worth it. So please, thank you.
Mr. Anderson, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rick Anderson, 237 Stetson Street. I feel uniquely qualified to weigh in on this article. As someone with 35 years of municipal finance experience here in the town of Whitman, but also as a retiree on a fixed income, like many of you. During my 25-year tenure on the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee, there were times that we, as a community, lost focus on maintaining our infrastructure. There are also times when we met difficult times with a laser focus to ensure crucial capital needs were funded. The crisis we have before us was predictable and, for the most part, preventable. More recently, I was a member of the Finance Committee and served as chair for 7 years. We stood before you last year and said that the override presented at that time was not the best path forward. More long-term projections and involvement from all town departments was needed to present a financial plan for the future. You, town meeting, listened and agreed. We now have before us this article that seeks your support to override the provisions of Proposition 2.5 to balance the budget. I have watched from the sidelines for the last 8 months as the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee have worked collaboratively with our regional school district and all town departments to demonstrate the need. The recommendation is clear, and the details have been laid out on the table for months. It is my sincere belief that we are at a time when we have to make the difficult decision to raise our levy capacity to maintain the basic services that we all depend upon. I urge town meeting to support this article for the best future of Whitman. Thank you.
Ma'am. No, okay. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Jerry Blumenthal, 50 Elm Place. I have a question for the board of the Finance Committee. If you could please explain how this 1-year Prop 2.5 override is not going to become a yearly event needed year after year as budgets increase year after year. Thank
Somebody
you.
want to address that? Mr. Evans?
Sure. Justin Evans, 57 Candlewick Lane. So this is, oh, thank you. Justin Evans, 57 Candlewick Lane, and Select Board. So yes, the Finance Committee made a unanimous recommendation to seek an override that closes the budget gap for just this year. Our projections right now show that we'll be close next year. We may be $400,000 or $500,000 short on a funding a full budget next year based on our projections. The following year, it would look a little bit worse, but we are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel with the Plymouth County retirement assessment. So that $3.5 million obligation that is sitting on our books right now is still increasing at about 10% a year until 2030. So when that falls up, it opens up a lot more capacity in the general fund to fund operations, capital, or whatever. So we've got that, if we can get through fiscal 26, fiscal 27, we've got a couple year gap where it may be necessary for another override to close those 28 and 29 years, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and we're getting some good news on some of the capital projects as well. So not that that covers the operating budget, but there is some tax relief elsewhere in the budget.
Can I respond? So if this year budget deficit is 2 million and we pay for it with this single year increase in assessments or tax, is not next year also going to have a $2 million deficit plus any increases? So this $2 million doesn't disappear, does it?
So this $2 million would, Kathy, do you want to?
Ms. Otina?
It's a valid question, and it's one that the Finance Committee labored over for over an hour, discussing whether we supported over an hour. That's just 1 hour, one night. But the town received a grant that allows them to do financial projections. And given the $2 million override this year and the projections for fiscal 27, the projection would be that we would be about $500,000, just under $500,000 short in fiscal 27. There were several compelling reasons why, as a committee, we decided to recommend the one-year override. One of them was at a select board meeting, a concerned citizen, a very active citizen, stood up and asked the select board if they went for the 3-year override, could they promise that they'd only use a certain amount of money in fiscal 26, a little bit more in 27, and the balance in 28. And that, to this Finance Committee, was an indication that we need to instill trust from the voters in the decision-making of the Select Board and the Finance Committee. So there was some concern that, no, the answer is no. If there was something catastrophic that came along that needed to be funded and there was money to be had, we would probably recommend using it. So that was a legitimate point raised by an involved concerned citizen that we took into account. We also know with great certainty the amount of revenue, aside from the Proposition 2.5 levy limit increase that we're entitled to without the override. So we have a pretty good handle on the local receipts for fiscal 26. The projections for fiscal 27 and fiscal 28 are simply that, projections. Things may get better. Things may get worse, but we don't know right now with great certainty what fiscal 27 has to offer us, but with a projection of a $500,000 gap for fiscal 27, and with the incredible work that's been done by Mary Beth Carter and Kathy Keefe in cutting the budget, and the Finance Committee with scrutinizing the budget, I believe that we may be able to eke through fiscal 27, and yes, we will probably be back in fiscal 28 unless the state revisits its commitment to local aid and Chapter 70 for the schools, and things improve. But we felt The one-year, $2 million override stood the best chance of being supported by the local citizens so that they can learn the impact, why an override is needed, and once that education process, and we've had 3 public forums over the past month that were well attended, the first 2 anyway, where wonderful questions were asked and answered, and the education process has begun. So I think it's a valid question, and it was a hard decision for the Finance Committee to make, but we are committed to the one-year override. We will be able to close the fiscal 26 budget gap, and I'm sure we'll be back in July working on fiscal 27 within, a blink of an eye. But thank you for that question. It's a very good one.
I think everybody who manages a household in the town understands why the override is needed. I don't think we needed any education there, but it sounds like this is going to go on for a number of years, and the budget deficit or gap may just diminish over quite a number of years and keep going on and on. Thank you.
Sir?
I appreciate all that you guys do here.
Can you identify yourself, sir, please?
I know it takes a lot behind the scenes.
Could you identify yourself, please?
My name's Steve. I live over on
You have a last name?
Park Circle, Forbes.
Thank you.
Past couple of years, I've seen my taxes go up. My house has been reassessed. My homeowner's insurance has gone up, so my monthly expense of my house has gone up roughly about $200 a month. What you guys are proposing, what would be the annual amount of money I'm gonna have to pay out of pocket if I vote yes on this?
Ms. Carter?
Thank you. So for the $2 million override, and this is for a home valued at $495,736, which is the fiscal 25 average single home. So that's the information that we're going on. Of course, this override goes through, will be based on the 26, but to use that figure, we're showing it will have an annual increase of $372.66 a year, or $31.06. However, if your home is valued higher, it will be more. If it's assessed lower, it would be less.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ma'am?
Julia Nanigan, 28 Forest. So I'm not an expert, but I've been trying to follow along. And so what I was seeing is that the $2 million, the override, if we were to do that, it would be about 75 cents per assessed $1,000 value of the home. Am I, okay, about that. So that is to help pay for the entire budget, including the Council on Aging, which, I mean, that's part of the budget. And it also is going to help pay for the fire department, the ambulances. So if you're an older person, you want those things. If you don't have an extremely large, expensive home, it's not going to be as dramatic a change for you, but you still want to have those services, the Council on Aging and the police and the fire and the ambulances. And it seems like that's important for everyone.
Other discussion of Article 8. Mr. Galvin.
John Galvin, 41 High Street. It gets confusing. How much is it going to cost me? Average household. Let's just do it simply, break it down. So we have 4 capital building projects. We have the high school, which is almost done, about $375,000 this year. We have the police station project, which is about $500,000. The DPW, which is fully on the tax rolls now. Those 3 projects are fully on there. So each year, what we pay goes down a little bit. The last thing on there is the new middle school. The new middle school is only about half on the tax rolls by my estimation. But if we throw all of those four things together, those are what we voted a debt exclusions for. That means what the costs are, we've already approved it. Your taxes are going to go up about 3.9% this year to pay for all of those. So if you think about what I just said, that's pretty much all the middle school we're paying for, that increase. If we go ahead and vote the override, it goes up another almost 6%. So altogether, whatever you're paying in taxes right now is going to go up about 10% of whatever each and every one of yours is. If we decide not to do the override, it drops it down to a little over 6%. So that's where we're at. Now, I understand that a lot of bad things happen if we vote no. But my problem, and I've heard a couple people talk about it, is we need something that's sustainable. And unfortunately, this isn't sustainable. We heard them say that next year we've got a deficit. The year after that, it's not a little higher, it's a lot higher. It's 1.8 million around. So I'm in favor of an override, but I need an override that gets the job done. And unfortunately, this one doesn't get the job done. So I think we need to we need to vote it down.
Ms. Byers.
Good evening, Moderator. Dawn Byers, 20 Russell Road, school committee member, also parent of 2 graduates of Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. I want to thank Dr. Kowalski, Chair of the Select Board, for pointing out a fact of the school district spending at the beginning of this meeting, where years back we were in the bottom 1% of the statewide spending, and we've made some gains over the years. We're really fortunate now to be in the bottom 20%. Okay, that's not state average. We're not state average in school spending. We're below state average. I want to point to the school district's budget book, which is online. Page 2 here talks about maintain, maintain, maintain. The budget that you will vote for tonight maintains the services we currently have at the bottom 20% in the state of Massachusetts. If you want to maintain those, then I ask you to vote yes to support the override, to continue supporting all town departments, including the school district. If you choose to go backwards, I can stand here and tell you about my children's education experience that was subpar, bottom in the state. Okay, I'm fortunate that I can stand here and continue to advocate for all town departments for this override. It's critical, not only just to say it's for the kids, it's our future, it's our community. These are the citizens that are going to help us in the future, right, as we grow older, right? We need these kids, we need community, and we need to support it. So it really is a matter, because honestly, the schools do have the largest portion of the budget. Yes, it's about half. I would actually say it's only half of the budget, because it's not enough. It doesn't go far enough to give all the services that's needed, but we've made some gains from the bottom 1%. I ask you to support this, just to stay level and steady at 20% in the state of Massachusetts. It prides itself on leading the country in education, but we are so far away from leading anything in Massachusetts.
Sir.
Marshall Latino, 100 Lazel Street. Just to kind of follow up what a couple other people said, that it's not just a school override. If we look at this, look at the impact across the board. We are looking at fire shifts lost, police shifts lost, services lost at the Council of Aging, services lost at the library, veteran service offices. There's something that impacts everyone in this room, probably multiple departments that impact everyone in this room. This isn't just for the schools, as some people have tried to paint it as, and will continue to try to paint it as. This is for the good of the town as an entirety. Please support this override tonight.
Mr. Kane.
Thank you. Sean Kane, 31 Forest Street, member of the Select Board. It would be easier if there was a bad guy in this situation. To get angry at a department or an individual because they were wrong or deceitful or because of mismanagement. I would not want to make a sacrifice for someone who is not acting in the best interest of our community. In my honest opinion, however, that is not the case. We have an underfunded school district that is trying desperately to hold on to some of the meager gains they've made over the past 5 years, and our town departments are in the same situation. We have outstanding employees, good people who are working hard for our community. For that, I am grateful. But we're getting hit hard by fixed costs, and our revenues have plateaued. It's a bad combination. We've known that this has been coming for a long time. We've gone to great lengths to implement strategies to help. But we've come to a critical point, and most towns around us find themselves in a similar situation. So we're left with a difficult choice, not because someone is at fault, but because these are the cards that have been dealt. The question is this: do you want to support the override and keep the integrity of our services intact so we can provide quality ambulance response times and police shifts that are adequately staffed, and to keep taking steps towards an educationally sound classroom? Or do you want to decrease some of those services because the override seems like too much? It's not an easy choice, and I respect the will of town meeting. But I will say this: if you're willing to make a sacrifice for our community, the goodwill would be greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated by many people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and sacrifice for you. Please seriously consider supporting the override. Thank you.
Sir.
Chris Marks, 291 Hog Memorial Drive, school committee member. First of all, thanks to everybody up there for doing what you do. It's a thankless job. You got to listen to people like me yell at you, and I apologize for that. A couple of people have touched on the term level service. This is not asking for anything new, anything extra, anything above and beyond what we already have. Sorry. This is just, let's do again next year what we do this year, okay? You know, Ms. Hill mentioned earlier that the outside consultant that had come in several years ago was pointing to a $5 million override need this year. We're asking for 2 at this point. So I think that the work of all of the departments in town is to be commended for that. That's a pretty significant reduction over what was initially going to be needed. And going back to something that Ms. Byers said regarding the bottom 1%, when my son, who's now in 9th grade, was a kindergartner, we had to have a meeting with one of his teachers because he was frustrated and scribbled out a problem on a piece of math paper, and they couldn't give him another one. They were budgeted to the piece of paper and wouldn't let him have another one. And my wife and I had to talk to the teacher about that. That's what the bottom 1% is. We're not there anymore. We can't go back. We can't go back. And again, this is not just about the schools. Several years later, we had a heat exchanger on our furnace start to crack and leak carbon monoxide into the house. For the first time in our time in Whitman, we called the fire department. The fire department was there within 3 minutes. Without level service, you're not getting a 3-minute response time. You're lucky if you get 10, 15. And I don't know if she's here, but I've seen a lot of posting online by a woman here in town, Anna, who continues to point out the deficiencies in potentially losing fire shifts and police shifts, and that second ambulance, that second fire truck, that second police shift not being there when you need it. A $2 million override is not $0. It is going to cost people in this room real dollars. That is not debatable. But the real cost of not passing this override is in that police officer not showing up when you need him, that fire department, that fire engine not being there when there's carbon monoxide leaking into your house, and having to console your kindergarten student because he scribbled on a piece of math paper and he couldn't get another one. That's the real cost. Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Thank you. Thomas Evans, 68 Temple Street, Unit 307. I listened to a lot of people. I was lucky enough to go to the informational meetings, which have been invaluable. And somebody said you only spent a little bit of time. It was about 2 hours well spent. I just want to say a couple of things. And it's about the community, and this is about the good of the community. I heard the story about the woman with her teeth and so forth. That's totally unfortunate. But what's even more unfortunate, Council on Aging is going to provide less services if we don't vote this. So we're not talking about one person, we're talking about a lot of people. Now, a couple of other things. The losses to our elderly are going to be really impacted. I've been the recipient of an ambulance ride many, many times, not in a parade. And I'll tell you right now, without that, there'd be a lot of people in this room who I'm sure would be in a different situation, myself included. The police, we cannot afford to go on with police. The police are already understaffed. They're working overtime. They're trying to fill slots and so forth. It's the safety of our community that we have to think about, not just one factor. And that one factor that does apply is everybody. Everybody's affected some way or the other by all the services. We also talk about the loss of opportunity for learning for kids. There is a loss. The fact that foreign languages, which were available years ago, are not available in the same degree. You pay money to go on Teams. You pay money for this. You pay this and that. You pay money if you're a student to park your car. So people are giving all over the place. I want to echo what Dr. Kowalski said. He says, Whitman takes care of its own. Boy, that's so true. I've often used the expression, the Fram oil filter. You either pay us now or you pay it later. Well, if you don't pay now, you're definitely going to pay later. I ask you to support the override. Comments by Mr. Anderson, who's really, really knowledgeable, were very enlightening. One fellow said that we talk about a question of sustainability. I think the question of sustainability, are we going to keep sustaining people dying because of no services? Are we going to have sustainability of cutting our fire department and all of our services because we can't sacrifice? I think, being in this community for about 50 plus years, that this community can do it. It will not be easy, as Mr. Kane would say, but there's no substitute for what's good for everybody. Thank you.
Sir?
Yeah, my name is Paul Bucco from 80 South Ave. Now, I was at the senior center when the talk was given, and I know for me personally, the $300 is not going to be much. But I know for a lot of our elderly who've been on fixed income for a long time, it's a big deal. And at the senior center, a question was brought up: what is the town going to do to help those on fixed income for decades when they can't pay their taxes? And I believe it was Mr. Gavin, correct me if I'm wrong, that brought up a program to give assistance to our elderly, but the program had no teeth. It's not going to help many. And one thing I've noticed, the leadership of this town, is a failure to address our fixed income and our elderly. Most of us here can afford this override, me included, and if I was retired, probably for the first 10 years. But if you're on fixed income for 20, 30 years with inflation, it's tough. So leadership of this town, I look at you as failing to address our elderly. Could someone please explain to us here how we're going to help our elderly on fixed income to stay in their homes when they can't afford the property tax? Thank you.
Chief? No, okay, Mr. Campbell, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move the question. I think we can read the
consensus of the meeting. Thank you.
We have a motion and seconded to move the question to end debate and move to a vote. All in favor, say yes. Opposed, no. Okay, we're going to move to a vote on this question. All in favor of Article 8, say yes. Opposed, no. We'll stand for this one. All in favor, please stand. $55.
52 upstairs.
52. All right, be seated. All opposed, please rise. $21. 20?
In favor?
24. He said 20 and 24. 21, 24, 20. I can't read that.
148 to 67.
In favor.
Yes.
148. The count is 148 in favor and 66 opposed. The motion, Article 8, is adopted. Ms. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to take Articles 18 and Article 19 out of order.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we need 2/3 on this one. All in favor of taking those articles out of order, say yes. Opposed, no. All right, the motion passes. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $200,000 from free cash to FY 2026, Article 2, line 35, Plymouth County Retirement, as outlined in the free cash policy, which was voted on by the Select Board on March 25th, 2025. Do we have a motion? A motion and a second. Discussion of Article 18. All right, all in favor of 18, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 18 is adopted with one dissension. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $140,000 from free cash to FY 2026, Article 2, line 34, other post-employment benefits to fund the town's OPEB unfunded liability as outlined in the free cash policy, which was voted by the Select Board on March 25th, 2025. Motion and a second. Discussion of 19. All right, all in favor of 19, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 19 is adopted unanimously. All right, so now we will proceed to Article 2. And we'll take a 5-minute recess to give everyone a chance here to look through Article 2. And remember, when we do this, there's 35 line items in there. I'll call them out in 10-line increments. And if you have a question on any particular line, shout out question and the number of the line item that you wish to question. And then we'll proceed to the vote from there. So 5 minutes. Okay. All right, Article 2. to determine how much money the town will raise and appropriate for general government, protection of persons and property, health and sanitation, public works, veterans benefits, education, library, recreation, and unclassified, specifying what appropriation shall be taken from the receipt of a department, provided that a portion of this appropriation shall be contingent on the approval of Proposition 2.5 levy limit override under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21CG, or take any other action relative thereto. We have a motion. Motion and a second. Okay. So we'll read these off in 10-line increments. Lines 1 through 10, any questions on any of those? Say question 8. Okay, 8, 1. All right, any others on 1 to 10? All right. 11 to 20. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. 15 and 16. 14, 20. Others on 11 to 20. All right. 21 to 30. 22. 25. 23. All right. And lines 31 through 35. 35. Any others? All right. So I have questions then on lines 1, 8, 14, 15, 16, 20, 22, 23, 25, and 35. Are there any others? All right. Then what we will do now is we will vote on all of the unquestioned items as a package according to the Finance Committee's recommendations. So all in favor of adopting those unquestioned lines, say yes. Opposed, no. It's adopted unanimously. Okay. Let's go to discussion then of line 1. Who had a question on that? Sir.
I applaud the decrease, but I'm curious. That's a big decrease. What changed?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Town Clerk. We don't have a presidential election in that election cycle, so it's basically going to just cover the annual election and the annual town meeting. So and it's just my my maintenance costs. So.
All right, any other questions on line 1? Okay, all in favor of line 1, say yes. Opposed, no. Line 1 is adopted unanimously. Line 8, who had the question on line 8? Mr. Rotina.
Marshall Otina, 100 Lazel Street. Just questioning, so in the back of the book, it does break down all the salaries. Why there's a 18, almost 19% increase in the salary for the assistant director?
Mr. McDaniel, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Good evening. Thank you for the question. Josh McNeil, IT Director for the town of Whitman. I appreciate the question. I think we can all realize how difficult it has been to hire and retain quality talent these days. It's not easy. More specifically so in the IT sector, with all the cyber craziness going on these days. It's extremely difficult. And this particular situation here in relation to the 17,000 that we're referring to is just that, essentially trying to retain an employee of extreme caliber that we can probably, we're underpaying him at this point, really, to be honest with you. But as the taxpayer myself, I don't make recommendations lightly, and I make recommendation to our town administrator as well as our select board. And I also talked about this situation with our finance committee, who I think, based on their recommendations, supported the recommendation across the board. I'm more than happy to go into further detail on it, but essentially what we're trying to do here is retain an employee, and trying to save ourselves the headache and trying to hire a new employee and train a new employee that unfortunately we're not going to be able to do based on the existing experience that the current individual has. It's just, again, based on, the town of Hanson, if you look across the way, they've tried to hire an IT director now 4 times, I believe, and they just can't do it. So again, it's extremely difficult to be able to try and hire and retain employees, and that's all we're trying to do here.
Mr. Kane?
Yeah, I second that. And from the select board's point of view, this is a position that affects all departments. If we don't get things right with technology, which is a department of 2 people, if we don't get things right, it affects all departments and it puts the town at a financial risk. So at a time when we're scrutinizing every line in Article 2, this is one that we felt really was a priority.
All right, other questions on line 8? All right, all in favor of line 8, say yes. Opposed, no. Line 8 is adopted unanimously. Line 14 was the next one. Who had a question on 14? Yes, ma'am?
I just want to know what the, on page, the $26,000 facility increase is for?
Could you just identify yourself, ma'am?
Oh, Sandy Cortez, 12 Meyer Farm.
Todd DeCudo, 6 Ivy Lane, Facilities Director for the Town of Whitman. The Facilities Department has been working very closely with Town Administrator. We are merging all utilities and maintenance expenses from each building into the facilities account, so they will be paying all the utility bills, handling all the maintenance expenses. This year, we are going to be adding the senior center. Last year, we added the library. Next year, we're hoping to do the police department and possibly the fire department.
Other questions on 14? All right, all in favor of 14, say yes. Opposed, no. 14 is adopted unanimously. Line 15, who had a question on 15? Sir.
Good evening. Brendan Griffin, 176 Temple Street. I would like to ask, and I'm assuming the chief's, the swing of salaries, 7.77 up for the police department. It's a 7.77 swing, and I've heard a lot of people tonight talking about ambulances and EMTs and of course there's the lack of hospital closeness and I would just break it down for me. What's up with the 7.7 swing in the police department overage to the fire department?
Chief?
Tim Hanlon, Police Chief, and also a resident, 55 Indian Trail. So I'm not sure exactly what the question is, but the police department tries to be fully funded in that we want to fill all of our shifts. And year after year, that's not the case. So year after year, I present a budget that reflects including all of those shifts that we can afford to fund. So what happens is during the course of a year, we have to manage the budget that we're given. And so we don't fill shifts along the way. And so this reflects the majority of those is shifts that aren't filled. So instead of having a full complement of shifts, we are forced to run understaffed at times. And that's basically what that is. Did that answer your question? No, the staffing is the same. Nope. Just a salary issue. So the salaries haven't gone up either, outside of any union contracts. So this is just shifts we don't fill.
If you could speak to the microphone, sir.
So the 7.77% swing in the fire department salary and the police department salary is for unfilled shifts, yes? I just want to make sure that I'm hearing.
For the police department.
Okay.
We don't compare, department services. I present a budget that is needed for the police department, and the fire chief does the same for his. We don't cross-reference each other as how many percentage points are going up or anything. We ask for what we need.
Other discussion of 15? Yes, ma'am?
loud. Yes, my name is Mary Fox. I am on a fixed income, and of course, I'm retired, and I have a few things to say. Number one, I think part of this budget, it is difficult for older people on a fixed income. I'm very fortunate, and some people are not as fortunate. The thing is, as I see it in this town, there are a lot of us older people. We do require a lot of services. And I think part of what I did have difficulty with this override, I feel part of it is fear.
Ma'am, we need to get the discussion focused on line 15.
Okay, I do not think this business of hiring shifts, I don't think we're talking straight pay. I think we're talking time and a half or double time. And to me, I know the morale of the department might not be high, but the next thing is attendance is paramount. You're dedicated, you signed up for this, and to me, we know you're worth it, but we can't just keep raising it, okay? That's just the way that is, okay? So I'm going to suggest, I may join that finance committee, that we find other ways other than putting the burden on taxpayers to fund these salaries, because I think they're a little high. That's all I'm going to say.
Other discussion 15. Mr. Kane?
Just quickly, this is a priority because the police department currently has unmanned shifts that we're not comfortable with. This is a safety issue that we want to address, and we've been trying to address over the past couple of years. So this is us trying to rectify a safety issue to make sure that we have staff shifts that are appropriate.
Other discussion of 15. All right, all in favor of line 15, say yes. Opposed, no. 15 is adopted unanimously. Number 16, who had a question on 16? Same question, Chief Clancy?
Tim Clancy, 21 Blast Road, your fire chief. I believe your question is why it's almost flush, it's 1%. What it is I've had retirements with people that were senior higher on the pay scale contractually, and we're bringing in new members that come in at a lower rate, have less vacation time, and that's what works out to that 1%.
Right, other discussion on 16? Ms. Fox?
Mary Fox, I have another question. In the past, and I did avail myself once or twice, I believe, in the last 2 years, of the ambulance. My insurance pays the ambulance. I have excellent insurance, pays the ambulance. And I think that is great. The next thing is, how about we consider the trip to Brockton Hospital, which has been redone, and I have been there, as opposed to going to South Shore, which is more mileage and may require a wait. Okay, the last time I was there, it was a long wait.
We have to keep focused on the line item that we're discussing here at 16.
Well, that involves salaries and the new ambulance and everything else. I think closer is better. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. Other discussion of 16. All in favor of line 16, say yes. Opposed, no. 16 carries unanimously. Line 20. Who had a question on 20? Ms. Byers?
Don Byers, 20 Russell Road. Could someone speak to the line for other vocational tuition, Norfolk and Bristol, and what the split is with those two assessments?
Who would like to address that? Ms. McGreen.
Kathy Keefe, Assistant Town Administrator. So if I understand the question, we have one student currently going to Bristol and the balance going to Norfolk. And as you may realize, we are just invoiced by those schools. We have no say over how much, the assessment to those schools are going to be. So I guess I didn't answer your question. Could you repeat it?
Of the amount in the budget, $515,000.
Right.
How much is being assessed or is apportioned to Norfolk, and how much is for Bristol, because they're two separate schools?
So I can tell you Bristol is about 28 to 30,000, and then the balance would be Norfolk. We have 14-ish students going to Norfolk and just one to Bristol.
Okay, and that's 28,000. For Bristol, for one child?
Correct.
Thank you. And for vocational transportation, the budget line is 90,000. How is that amount determined?
So we have, for Norfolk, we have two legs. We have First Student and we have North River Collaborative, so they bill us independently. And then for the Bristol student, we are retaining a private transportation company that takes that one student from Whitman to Bristol.
And all of that transportation is combined to 90,000?
Yes, that covers, yes.
Okay.
The two legs to Norfolk and then the one to Bristol.
And the two different providers for transportation to Norfolk, is there a reason there's two different? Could they all consolidate?
Nope, so we have North River Collaborative that gets the students from their homes to a bus stop, where First Student then picks them up from that bus stop and takes them to the school.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Hill.
Just a quick question, and probably nobody here will understand why I'm asking this, but North River Collaborative is part of our budget. Is when they bill you, do they bill you a separate bill, or are they billing through Whitman Hanson?
No, they bill us directly.
Thank you.
Other discussion of line 20? All right, all in favor of line 20, say yes. Opposed, no? Or, line 20 carries unanimously. Line 22, who had a question on 22? Yes, ma'am.
Sandy Cortez, I just have a question about the 8.3% increase, $162,000 for highway and park expenses.
Do we have? Yes, Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Bruce Martin, 54 Park Ave, Highway and Park and Tree Superintendent. So what, the main part of this increase is to pay for the utility costs of our new facility. The new facility is much larger, it has a lot more functions in it, air conditioning, air control units, all kinds of things. The projection from our engineer and architect for the building gave me a number that it would cost more to provide heat and electricity to the new facility. So most of this increase is for that.
Other discussion of 22? All right, all in favor of line 22, say yes. Opposed, no? 22 is adopted unanimously. 23. Yes, ma'am.
Same question, but water and sewer expenses at 10.39%, almost $464,000.
David LeMay, 23 Star Street, Water and Sewer Superintendent. Part of this increase also is for the Water and Sewer Division to pay for part of the expenses for the new building. And then our other part is the debt that we have to pay is the loan we're going to be paying for the new sewer force main we put in. So that's part of what the increase is.
All right, other discussion of 23? Yes, Ms. Byers?
Thank you. I have a postcard that was sent to residents some time ago, and it says, "Notice of change in water and sewer rates. At the special town meeting on October 30th, 2023, the town appropriated $2.2 million to fund additional costs for the new DPW facility. As discussed at the special town meeting, the funds would be payable by all sources of revenue by the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund. In preparation to pay for the appropriated funds, the Board of Commissioners voted on February 20th, 2024, to increase the water rate by 30 cents and the sewer rate by 40 cents per 100 cubic feet. This increase will be included in the April 15th, 2024 water sewer bill." So I want to know if that has been paid in full or what the status of that funding is. I also believe that there may have been some changes since then in funding. That $2.2 million. Was ESSER funds used or any alternative funding? Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Those increases were to pay for the building itself. The increase is for the expenses along with highway, water, and highway department to pay the utilities for the new building. That was to pay for the building itself.
All right, other discussion of 23? All right, all in favor of line 23, say yes. Opposed, no. 23 is adopted unanimously. 25, what a question on 25? Sir?
Ed Winnett, 308 Rainer Ave. Everybody's looking at the the increases. I'm looking at the negatives, and again, I applaud the savings, but going from 18.5 down to 5,000 for expenses for Council of Aging, where are we finding savings? Or let's not cut the seniors, all right? Come on.
Mary Holland, COA Director. Great question, but I promise you it's not what it looks like. It was what was mentioned earlier. The facilities manager is taking over the electric, gas, all that stuff, our cleaning. So it's just money that's being moved over that he's going to now have to pay those bills and not me. So we're not cutting us.
All right, discussion of 25? All right, all in favor of 25, say yes. Opposed, no. 25 is adopted unanimously. And finally, we have line 35. Who had the question on 35? Was there a question on 35? Okay, no, okay. So all in favor of line 35, say yes. Opposed, no. Line 35 is adopted unanimously. Okay, that's Article 2. All right, we move then to Article 9. To see if the town will vote to have its elected treasurer-collector become an appointed treasurer-collector of the town, subject to acceptance by the voters of the town at the next annual town election, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and a second. Discussion of Article 9. Okay, all in favor of Article 9 say yes. Opposed, no. Article 9 is adopted. Article 10, proposed replacement for current Chapter 7, Article 5, recording of meetings, Section 712 requirements exceptions. To see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 7, Article 5, recording of meetings, general bylaw of the town of Whitman by deleting the existing Section 712 requirements exceptions and inserting in its place a new Section 712 requirements exceptions as follows, or take any other action relative thereto. All town boards and committees shall make an audio or audio-video recording of its public meetings, excluding that portion of those meetings conducted in executive session and those meetings that are recorded by WHCA for Whitman Hanson Cable Access Corporation, WHCA, and that said recordings shall be transmitted to WHCA for broadcast and placement on youtube.com for future access. All meeting recordings must be posted within 72 hours of the meeting, regardless of whether the meeting minutes have been completed and or approved. Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. We have an amendment. The amendment states, add after the sentence of all public meeting minutes shall be posted on the town website within 72 hours of approval. All town boards and committees shall make an audio or audio-video recording of its public meetings, excluding that portion of those meetings conducted in executive session and those meetings that are recorded by WHCA for Whitman Hanson Cable Access Corporation, WHCA, and said recording shall be transmitted to WHCA for broadcast and placement on youtube.com for future access. All meeting recordings must be posted within 72 hours of the meeting, regardless of whether the meeting minutes have been completed and or approved. Do we have a motion? We have a motion on the amendment. Do we have a second? All right, discussion. Mr. Kimball.
The reason I bring this up is, first of all, people should have access to the minutes. And if you're looking for something on a particular meeting, and you go to the YouTube, you might have to look 2 hours into something to see if it's relevant or not. If the minutes are posted on the website, I can go to the website, scan down through the minutes, and see, oh, 2/3 of the way they discussed XYZ. I can go to the YouTube and see XYZ, get to it a lot closer. And I just think it's very important that we have access to the minutes on the website. So that's why I'm recommending this.
Ms. Carter?
Yes, Ms. Moderator, I have a question. Was the amendment to put the minutes up and get those posted within 72 hours of a meeting? Is that what I...
72 hours of approval. To add a sentence to this article that would say all public meeting minutes shall be posted on the town website within 72 hours of approval.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion of the amendment? Sir?
Marshall Latino, 100 Lazel Street. Just question if there'd be any financial impact based on Mr. Kimball's amendment?
Do we have anybody who would like to address that question? Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rick Anderson, 237 Stetson Street. I can only say that, in my experience, the Finance Committee was in favor of posting the meeting minutes as they were approved on the website. And at that time, the Finance Committee was told that the town didn't have the resources to do that. So I'd be just as interested to hear of what that cost will be. Thank you.
Miss.
Michelle McNulty, Town Council. Can I see it in writing? I'm just seeking clarification on your amendment. All public meetings, are you excluding executive session minutes?
Any meeting that can be posted on the website, on the TV, I'm asking to be put on the website. It says on the original article of recording of public meetings. The same thing I'm asking is public meetings. So if my amendment is wrong for that, the whole article is wrong.
No, I heard it. I had to see, I'm a visual person. I had to see it in writing. May I speak just on this for a moment? So one of the concerns is the timing. I think you have it from the 72 hours from approval, but you're not excluding the executive session minutes from that because the executive session minutes are not recorded. So that's in the body, but then your sentence that you're adding is saying all public meetings. And my concern as town council is having the time necessary to do the redactions on the executive session minutes following any approval of them. It's just giving me pause. That's the thing that we are over here kind of hunkered down about.
In the actual bylaw that it's there right now. Okay, executive sessions. We could add that in there for executive sessions. But the big point here is they should be posted. And one of the other things is I looked on the cable TV to YouTube. I called up the YouTube cable TV gentleman. I asked him to see the bylaw study committee that went to this, and that's not posted on the YouTube. So that's part of the problem. My big thing is, and if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass, but we've got to get the minutes posted on the website one way or another. And it's been told to me that our recording secretaries on the board can get them posted through the ID department when they have the proper credentials to get them onto the website.
I can't speak to the substance of the motion. That's for the meeting to decide. Our concern as council was just to make sure or to suggest that the motion be very clear as to what you are seeking relative to open session versus executive session meetings. That's my only comment. Thank you.
And I believe we would have to vote on this amendment as it's written. Mr. McNeil.
Josh McNeil, IT Director again. Just want to confirm your, I guess, concern was the major concern is the fact of the minutes themselves being posted on the town website. I just want to make sure that this amendment is not looking for the actual recordings to be placed on the town website. WHCA handles all of the recordings, and all of the recordings reside on YouTube.com. I just want to make sure that that's correct. Okay.
I'm just saying the posted minutes, but the town cable TV is not an official town document procedure, so those aren't official records over there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Hill.
Rosemary Hill, 405 Franklin Street. I want to support this for two reasons. One, because often executive session minutes are not properly, the time period between accepting them and not is extreme, sometimes a year, and that's improper. And executive session becomes public record at one point, often, and it gives an opportunity for the redactions to happen more immediately and the public to have access to their whole body of government quicker and understanding that we really shouldn't have executive sessions going that long. Additionally, the minutes are a shorter version, and sometimes you just want to know what you want to listen to. And it's like a point. So you can kind of say, oh, okay, I'd like to hear about, the Community Preservation Act. That's for about a certain amount of time in, or I'll fast forward the recording to that. So it gives you kind of an overview of the meeting. And then if you want more detail, you can go and watch the video. And I think that transparency is really, really important. So any opportunity for it is worth the cost. And thank you.
Mr. Kane?
Thank you. Listen, I'm somebody who reads minutes. I appreciate when a committee posts minutes so I can scan through, just like Mr. Kimball said, and it's definitely a priority for me. My only hesitation here is that we have a bylaw study committee that goes through our bylaws thoroughly, works with town council and town administrator so that our bylaws can be really well thought out. I'm worried about a last minute amendment, but I think your point is well taken. I personally would like to make this more of a priority for the select board to talk about and deliberate at a select board meeting, and then work with department heads or committee heads so that we can make this happen, because this is definitely a priority for me. Like I said, I just don't think amending the bylaw on the fly at town meeting is the best practice.
Yes, ma'am?
I agree with John. Can we move the vote?
We have a motion to move the vote on the amendment. All in favor of moving the vote on amendment, say yes. Opposed, no? Okay, all in favor of amending Article 10, say yes. Opposed, no? All right, the amendment fails. Other discussion of Article 10? Yes, sir. Mr. Galvin.
John Galvin, 41 High Street. I just want to question the 72-hour period. Is that just to get it to WHCA, or is that the time period where it's supposed to show up on YouTube? Because has anybody talked with the executive director at WHCA that he can process all of these in a 72-hour period from the end of the meeting? Because I don't think they can.
Ms. Carter?
The intention was that within 72 hours of the meeting, it would be uploaded to WHCA. Okay, not necessarily, then it's their time frame to get it up on the site.
Okay. Other discussion of Article 10? Yes, ma'am.
Elizabeth Murphy, 122 Westwood, and I just want to let everyone know that the volunteer committee, the finance committee, they're very patient with me. I have a and Rosemary, you're in favor of this, you're killing me. But anyway, I do my best to get the recordings, because I am very for getting the recordings up online. I'm not always in town, so the recorder takes my place at a lot of the meetings. When I get back a week later, I go up, I upload them to WHCA, and they're on, and I love that. And if you want to know how to get the text and put it into ChatGPT and pick out all the points you want, I'll tell you that's a good thing too. I'm more than willing to teach. But I'm just saying, 72 hours, I don't want to be breaking the law or bylaws or whatever it is. I do my best, and if anyone else wants to step in my place, you guys have voted in a very good pay rate. So, but anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Other discussion of Article 10? Yes, Mr. Otina.
Just in defense of Mr. Kimball's failed amendment, and with taking in advice what Sean said, we don't want to amend this on the fly. I'd like to make a motion to pass over until we have a special town meeting in the fall or the next town meeting, just so we can get it cleared up. I do think that having the minutes available and readable online on the website is important.
All right, we have a motion then to pass over Article 10. Second, discussion of the motion to pass over Article 10. All right, all in favor of passing over Article 10, say yes. Opposed, no? Oh, okay, Article 10 is passed over. Article 11, proposed replacement for current Chapter 70, Article 1, Annual Town Meeting and Elections, Section 71, Date and Time, Poll Hours. To see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 70, Article 1, Annual Town Meeting and Election General Bylaw of the Town of Whitman by deleting the existing Section 71, Date and Time, Poll Hours, and inserting in its place new Section 71, Date and Time, Poll Hours as follows, or take any other action relative thereto. The annual town meeting shall be held on the first Monday in May of each year at the hour and location designated by the Select Board. The annual town election of officers and other matters to be determined by ballot shall be held on the third Saturday of May each year and shall be considered as part of the annual town meeting and shall be included in the warrant for the annual town meeting. The hours for the opening and closing of the polls shall be left to the discretion of the Select Board. Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. You have an amendment? Mr. Kimball? The annual town meeting shall be held on the first Monday of May of each year and at 7 p.m. and location designated by the Select Board. The annual town election of officers and other matters to be determined by ballot shall be held on the third Saturday of May each year and shall be considered as part of the annual town meeting and shall be included in the warrant of the annual town meeting. The hours for the opening and closing of the polls shall be left to the discretion of the Select Board. So the change you're making here is you would remove
At the discretion of the selectmen and add a specific time of 7
and
o'clock.
add specifically at 7 p.m. I see. Okay. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Second, okay.
And the
Discuss-
reason
Mr.
for
Kimball?
that is, at the last special town meeting, we started at 7. You brought it up that it was a good idea to start early, and I just think it should be a specific time as opposed to the selectmen who could start it anywhere from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night. So I just would prefer a specific time. It's up to the discretion of the board.
Mr. Evans?
And I guess this would apply both to the motion and the amendment. If I get this back up. Justin Evans, 57 Candlewick Lane, Select Board. So the intent of this initial bylaw amendment was to not have this meeting have to start at 7:30 by the bylaw. We did have a special town meeting start at 7 o'clock. I thought that worked pretty well. By removing the specific time, we could consider 6:30, probably not 6 o'clock, but we're not sure if we're going to settle on 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30 if we come back to this. So it gives more flexibility without having to wait for a town meeting to amend the bylaw, for the Attorney General to approve it, and then actually change the time there. Special town meetings are currently at the time set by the Select Board. That's why we're able to do the 7 o'clock.
Ms. Hill?
I'd like to ask the town clerk, it does say hours of the polls. Is there any objection? That's usually under the town clerk's say. I personally like to keep things consistent so that everybody kind of knows. But
Yeah, that is what's currently in the language of the hours of the poll, and every year, as town clerk, I send a letter to the Board of Selectmen asking them to set the election, because that's what you're asking about, for a 9 to 5. So that has already been done. So that language isn't changing. This is just changing the town meetings. So it's not changing the election. Thank you.
Other discussion of the amendment? All right, all in favor of amending Article 11, say yes. Opposed, no? Okay, the amendment fails. Other discussion of Article 11? All right, all in favor of Article 11, say yes. Opposed, no? Article 11 is carried unanimously. Article 12, proposed replacement for current Chapter 205, streets, sidewalks, and public ways. Article 2, use of public ways. To see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 205, streets, sidewalks, and public ways. Article 2, use of public ways of the town of Whitman by deleting the existing Section 205-11, vehicles interfering with snow and ice removal, and inserting in its place a new section 2005-11, vehicles interfering with snow and ice removal as follows, or take any other action relative thereto. Section 205-11, winter parking ban. A, between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. from December 1 through and including April 1, overnight on-street parking is prohibited. B, no person shall place or cause to be placed any vehicle which shall interfere with the removing or plowing of snow or the removing of ice in any way of the town when snowfall is predicted and for 48 hours after snowfall is stopped. C, the Department of Public Works or those acting under its orders in the lawful performance of their duties for the purpose of removing or plowing snow or removing ice from any way is hereby authorized and empowered to remove or cause to be removed to some convenient place, including in such term a public garage, any vehicle interfering with such work, and the owner of such vehicle shall be liable for the cost of such removal and the storage charges, if any, resulting therefrom. We have a motion. We have a second. Discussion of Article 12. All right, all in favor of Article 12, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 12 is adopted. Article 13. We have a motion to waive the reading. We have a second. All right, all those in favor of not allowing me to read the next 3 pages, say yes. Opposed, no. Okay, the reading of the article is waived. Do we have someone who, I'm sorry, what was it? Was 2/3? I'm sorry, it was a 2/3 majority, which I believe it was. Yes, to accept the waiving of the reading. That's right. Right. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Can maybe somebody wants to come up and tell us what Article 13 is all about? Mr. Goldrosen?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Goldrosen, 238 South Ave, Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. To give a little explanation on this bylaw, which I support, for almost 25 years, Whitman has had a provision in its zoning bylaw that allowed accessory apartments within a residential dwelling, provided that the occupants of the accessory apartment are relatives or family members of the owner of the residential dwelling. We also require a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I think that's worked pretty well. I'd say on average 3 or 4 a year of these have been approved. In 2024, the legislature passed a new statute that requires that all municipalities across the state allow what are called in the statute accessory dwelling units, or ADUs for short. And the requirements are that a town cannot require that it be family occupied and cannot require a special permit. So effectively, that statute overrides our existing bylaw. But the new statute does allow municipalities to adopt what the statute calls quote unquote reasonable regulations, provided that the regulations don't go so far as to prevent ADUs from being developed. So what the warrant article proposes as a replacement for our existing bylaw will impose some degree of control over ADUs to the extent allowed by the new statute. So I'm happy to answer questions on it, but given the hour and all, here's the bottom line. If you approve this article, the zoning board will have some degree of control over the ADUs that are being allowed by the state law. If you reject the article, we will have no control over those ADUs. So for that reason, I urge you to approve the article.
Discussion of 13. Yes, ma'am.
Brittany Cavallo, 900 Washington. Can you please speak to what the main difference is between the general statute that changed and what you want to require as the overlays for the bill?
Sure. So as I said, we can no longer require a special permit, and we can't require that it be occupied by family members. What is in here that wouldn't be in here if we don't approve it is to have site plan review by the zoning board. Without this, all anybody has to do is go to the building inspector, building commissioner, and get a permit, building permit, with no notice to any abutters. If we have site plan review, we have a public hearing, abutters get notified. The zoning board is still restricted in how much it can do, but we've found in other kinds of projects where all we can require is site plan approval, it still provides an opportunity for some negotiation, job owning, public input. So we think that's important. A couple of other provisions that are in here, it wouldn't be otherwise. We want the accessory units under the state law can go in a freestanding building like a garage. Under our zoning bylaw, garages can be as close as 10 feet to a property line to the side of the property, whereas the main building has to be, 30 feet or different distances away. We want to say that if you want to have an accessory dwelling unit, it's got to be as far away from the property line as the main building. So it's just a couple of things like that where we think we can impose some degree of control under the state law, but if we don't pass this bylaw, we won't be able to do that.
Other discussion of 13. Sir.
Adam Somerville, I'm the chairman of the planning board, 38 Rye Hill Street. Mr. Goldrosen brought this to us for approval. We voted unanimously to send it to the bylaw study committee. We hosted a public hearing, no opposition, and recommend approval.
Other discussion of 13. Ms. Hill. Can we use the microphone, please?
What do the attorneys say? Does this meet the state guidelines?
Hi, Peter Sumners from Town Council's office. I work closely with Chair Goldrosen on this bylaw. We did send this to the Attorney General's office, or to a former Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General, who has been assisting towns with reviewing their ADU bylaws. After discussion and review by them, we feel confident that this would meet the requirements of the state law.
Sir?
Edwin at 308 Rainer Ave. I took off my sweatshirt so you couldn't recognize me. I have a couple of questions regarding this bylaw, and I understand and I appreciate the work that you do in navigating the ADU legislation. So Section 6 of Chapter 40A requires a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet with 75 feet frontage and a dwelling no larger than 1,850 square feet and 3 or more bedrooms. Think about that. That's not a very big lot. So, this has the potential to have developers build tiny homes that encroach on open spaces we hadn't considered, which could threaten Whitman's character and also our natural resources. You can picture it. You got a small lot, let's put an ADU up. It's going to change how the town looks. I understand it's needed for housing, and I don't disagree that we should pass this, but I also feel like there should be some amendments to this. Maybe now's not a good time, but there's a couple of questions that I have. Why weren't those particular specifications listed in the bylaw? That's one question.
Mr. Goldrosen?
Because in the whole body of the state law that was passed, plus the state is the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities has adopted regulations to kind of flesh out the state law, and they're just not allowing us to be stricter than this. I will say the state law, as our bylaw does, puts a size limit on the space of the accessory dwelling unit. So that's in there. but there, we went as far with this bylaw, we went as far as we could without being struck down as inconsistent with the state law.
Understand, and I appreciate that. But it's important for the citizens to know that that's 10,000 square feet. That's a tiny home. That's a small lot. And it's going to have an impact on the community. And if we pass it, so be it. That's okay. Is it okay if I ask another question?
Does anybody else have a question on this article? No? Then you may ask another question.
Oh, good. I got a million. I'm just joking. So with respect to sections A and B in the bylaw, it must be contained on the same lot as the principal dwelling unit. So what guarantee do we have that the zoning board won't approve a variance and subdivide the lot below the current zoning requirements for A1 and A2? There's no language in the bylaw. So I actually was thinking that amendment to read that must meet the current required zoning lot size might provide some guarantee or protection for the community.
But I guess my response to that would be a variance by its nature overrides what's in a bylaw. So you wouldn't be able to put something in here saying you can never give a variance, because I'd leave it to town council. I think that'd be inconsistent with state law. But, variances have to be justified and on fairly narrow grounds. And, I can't look at this and say why we would give such a variance, particularly for an ADU.
Yeah, and I have full faith in the zoning board that you're keeping the character of the town in mind as you're going through your process. And then the other one is, what about sale? So with some of these lots, if you can have a minimum lot size of 10,000 and that lot gets subdivided, now, does that mean that people could sell that lot or transfer it? And what protection is around that? Because it's clear it's supposed to be associated with the principal dwelling.
Yeah. If I understand the question right, we actually have a provision in here. Thank you. You studied it better than I have. Provision L of this bylaw says a lot containing a principal dwelling and an accessory dwelling unit in an accessory structure shall not thereafter be subdivided into two lots unless each of the resulting lots and the structures thereon satisfy the dimensional requirements of Section 240-65. We did anticipate that since these are supposed to be accessory units, you shouldn't be able to divide it off and then have non-conforming lots, substandard lots. So that's covered by this.
And that's something the zoning board will review as plans come through. How is that captured with respect to sale? Sale of a property, does the zoning board review that?
No, we don't, but someone who would, it might be caught by the building department, and if not, frankly, somebody would do that would be creating a problem for themselves down the road in terms of resale, in terms of mortgaging, et cetera. Again, I don't want to start giving legal opinions, but there are, let's say, some sort of self-regulating mechanisms for that.
Okay. Appreciate your diligence on this too. I'm sure it's been difficult to navigate. Thank you.
Are there questions on 13? Mr. Evans? We have a motion to move the question. All in favor of moving the question to a vote, say yes. Opposed, no. Okay, we will move to a vote then. This does require a 2/3 majority. So all those in favor of Article 13, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 13 is adopted. One dissenter. To see if, Article 14, to see if the town will declare certain real property owned by the town of Whitman and located within the town of Rockland, known as Camp Alice Carlton, available for disposition to the town of Rockland by the Select Board in accordance with Massachusetts General Law C-30B, Section 16, provided that this land become an extension of the McCarthy Farm Conservation Land or take any other action relative thereto. Do we have a motion? A second? Ms. Carter?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to Article 14, basically adding a book and page.
So this is an amendment that comes near the end here, and it says, subject to an extension of the McCarthy Farm Conservation Restriction, Book 56247, page 119, or take any other action relative thereto. So it's just the insertion of this book and page number. We have a motion for the amendment. Do we have a second? All right, discussion of the amendment? No? Okay, all in favor of amending Article 14, say yes. Opposed, no? Okay, Article 14 is amended. Discussion of the amended article? Okay, all in favor of adopting Article 14 as amended, say yes. Opposed, no. Okay, Article 14 is adopted as amended. Oh, I'm sorry. We do need a two-thirds vote on that. I'm sorry. Yes, we do. So let's do a standing count on that since we did have some people vote no. All in favor of Article 14 as amended, please stand.
Thirty-eight.
38. Three zero. $46. Okay, thank you. You may be seated, and all those opposed, please stand. One. Two. Eight. What? Two. What's the count?
114 yes, no.
Okay. That's a count of 114 in favor and 8 opposed, so the article...
114 as well.
114 to 12 is the count, so the article is adopted by a two-thirds majority. Okay, Article 15. To see if the town will vote to authorize spending limits for fiscal year 2026 for the following revolving accounts approved under the town's bylaws or take any other action relative thereto. Animal control, $25,000. Council on Aging, $10,000. Library fines and fees, $20,000. Planning board, $75,000. Police, $20,000. Recreation, $75,000. Street lighting projects, $15,000. We have a motion. In a second. All right, discussion of Article 15? All right, all in favor of 15, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 15 is adopted unanimously. Article 16, to see if the town will appropriate and transfer $223,435 from free cash to the Capital Stabilization Fund as outlined in the free cash policy, which was voted by the Select Board on March 25th, 2025. The amount represents 10% of the FY 2025 certified free cash amount. Motion, a second, discussion of 16. All right, all in favor of 16, say yes. Opposed, no. 16 is adopted unanimously. Article 17, to see if the town will appropriate and transfer $201,092 from free cash to the General Stabilization Fund as outlined in the free cash policy, which was voted by the Select Board on March 25th, 2025. This amount represents 10% of the FY 2025 certified free cash amount net of the 10% capital stabilization contribution. Motion, second, discussion of 17. All in favor of 17, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 17 is adopted unanimously. All right, we've already done Articles 18 and 19. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $8,400 from free cash to engage an actuary to perform an assessment of future liabilities for OPEB, other post-employment benefits as required by GASB 75, the Government Accounting Standards Board, or take any other action relative thereto. Second, discussion of 20. Yes, ma'am.
Brittany Cavallo, 900 Washington. Sorry. If we evaluate the future liabilities, does that change our potential thing that we're paying through 2030 for the retirement fund?
Ms. Carter?
So the town has two unfunded liabilities. One is the Plymouth County retirement unfunded liability for those employees in the past that contributed 5%, 6, 7%, and 8%. Everybody now is contributing 9% plus 2% over 30,000. So the pension unfunded liability is one, and then the other is the OPEB, other post-employment benefits unfunded liability, and that's health insurance, life insurance costs. So they're two separate unfunded liabilities.
Right, other questions on 20? All right, all in favor of Article 20, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 20 is adopted unanimously. Article 21, to see if the town will appropriate and transfer $25,000 from free cash to fund the cost of a consultant for the Treasurer Collector's Office to assist with reconciling cash and receivables or take any other action relative thereto. We have a motion and a second. Discussion of 21. All right, all in favor of 21, say yes. Opposed, no. 21 is adopted unanimously. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $25,000 from free cash to fund the cost of a consultant for the accountant's office to assist the accountant with the various municipal Department of Revenue reporting or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and a second. Discussion of 22. All right, all in favor of 22, say yes. Opposed, no. 22 is adopted unanimously. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $77,000 from free cash to purchase and fully equip a 2025 one-ton four-wheel drive dump truck with snowplow or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and second. Discussion of 23. All right, all in favor of 23, say yes. Opposed, no. 23 is adopted unanimously. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $50,000 from free cash for asphalt, signage, granite, concrete, and engineering services for any expenses directly related to sidewalk repair work or take any other action relative thereto. Discussion of 24. All right, all in favor of 24, say yes. Opposed, no. All right, 24 is adopted unanimously. Article 25, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $100,000 from free cash for asphalt, signage, granite, concrete, and engineering services for any expenses directly related to road repair work or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and a second. Discussion of 25. All in favor of 25, say yes. Opposed, no. 25 is adopted unanimously. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $225,000 from free cash to pay for engineering costs associated with seeking state transportation improvement program funds or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 26. All in favor of 26, say yes. Opposed, no. 26 is adopted unanimously. 27, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $510,935.19 in available Chapter 90 funds, such funds to be expended by the Department of Public Works in accordance with the guidelines and requirements of the Massachusetts Highway Department, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 27. All right, all in favor of 27, say yes. Opposed, no. 27 is adopted unanimously. Article 28, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $35,000 from water sewer retained earnings to engage an engineering firm for services to update the town's risk and resilience assessment plan, an emergency response plan, or take any other action relative thereto. All right, motion and a second on 28. Discussion? All right, all in favor of 28, say yes. Opposed, no. 28 is adopted unanimously. 29, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $125,000 from the water sewer retained earnings to replace and upgrade the town's current bioxide chemical system at the Commercial Street Sewer Station or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and a second. Discussion of 29. All right, all in favor of Article 29, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 29 is adopted unanimously. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $70,000 from water sewer retained earnings to repair 5 sewer manholes with infiltration or take any other action relative thereto. Motion a second. Discussion of 30. All in favor, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 30 is adopted unanimously. Article 31, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $300,000 from water sewer retained earnings to engage Apex Company for services for an asset management plan grant or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 31? All right, all in favor of 31, say yes. Article 31 is adopted unanimously. Article 32, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $154,366.30 from free cash to purchase and equip 2 police vehicles or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 32? All right. All in favor of 32, say yes. Opposed, no. 32 is adopted unanimously. Article 33, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $95,000 from free cash to purchase and equip a new 4-wheel drive ship commander vehicle to replace a 2019 Chevy Silverado 2500 or take any other action relative thereto. All right, motion is second. Discussion of 33? All right, all in favor of 33, say yes. Opposed, no. 33 is carried unanimously. To see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $28,000 from free cash for the replacement of the existing carpet flooring and new carpeting and LVT flooring at the fire station. The flooring to be replaced is in the main sleeping quarters, emergency operating center, and 3 second-floor offices, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 34? And all in favor of 34, say yes. Opposed, no. 34 is adopted unanimously. Article 35, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $32,000 from free cash to replace an end-of-life heat pump city multi-condenser at police headquarters with a new condenser or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 35? All right, all in favor of 35, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 35 is carried unanimously. Article 36, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $33,000 from free cash to perform necessary repairs and upgrades to the farmers' porch at the Council on Aging, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 36. All in favor, say yes. Opposed, no. 36 is carried unanimously. Article 37, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $12,000 from free cash to purchase and install a mini-split cooling-only system at the public library in the data server room or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 37. All right, all in favor of 37, say yes. Opposed, no. 37 is adopted unanimously. Article 38, high school cool chiller compressor, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $58,722.95, 61.49% of the total cost of $95,500 from free cash to pay Whitman's share of the cost of replacing the high school cooled chiller condenser or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 38. All right. All in favor of Article 38, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 38 is carried unanimously. Article 39, high school fire panel replacement, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $119,090, 61.49% of the total cost of $193,674 from free cash to pay Whitman's share of the cost of replacing the high school fire panel or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 39. All in favor of 39, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 39 is adopted unanimously. Article 40, wireless access point replacement for Conley School, Duval School, and Whitman Middle, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $38,203.92, 50% of the total cost of $76,470.84, 50% from E-rate reimbursement from free cash to pay for the replacement of wireless access points at Conley, Duval, and Whitman Middle, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 40. Ms. Otina.
I simply want to take this time to acknowledge the work that the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District did to secure 50% funding from the E-rate program, which is run by the FCC, saving this town over $100,000.
Other discussion of Article 40? Yes, sir.
Dick Blas, 24 Porter Street. I understand what you're asking to do. Why are we replacing something at Whitman Middle School if we're tearing it down?
Does anybody from the schools want to answer that? Mr. Farrow?
We have too many tall people. Great question. However, there
Sorry, sir, could you just identify yourself? I know who you are.
George Farrow, Assistant Superintendent, 320 Harvard Street. Good question. However, the students that are going there will not be at the new middle school, so they also need access to it. However, I will say these are plug-and-play wireless access points, so when the new school comes online, these can be taken, and these can be still used as long as they're in service at the Conley and Duval School also.
All right, other questions on 40? All right, all in favor of Article 40, say yes. Opposed, no. 40 is adopted unanimously. Article 41, high school access point replacement. To see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $17,454.91, 61.49% of the 50% total cost of $56,775.27, 50% from E-rate reimbursement from free cash to pay for Whitman's share of the cost of replacement of wireless access points at the high school or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and a second. Discussion of 41? All right, all in favor of Article 41, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 41 is adopted unanimously. Article 42, core router MDF replacement. To see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $8,848.98, 61.49% of 50% of the total cost of $28,781.86, 50% from E-rate reimbursement from free cash to pay for Whitman's share of the cost of replacement of the core router at the high school or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and a second. Discussion of 42? And all in favor of Article 42, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 42 is adopted unanimously. Article 43, UPS battery backup replacement for Conley School, Duval School, and Whitman Middle. To see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $13,829, 50% of the total cost of $27,658, 50% from E-rate reimbursement from free cash to pay for the replacement of UPS battery backup at Conley, Duval, and Whitman Middle, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 43. All right, all in favor of Article 43, say yes. Opposed, no. 43 is adopted unanimously. Article 44, high school UPS battery backup replacement. To see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer $25,081.47, 61.49% of 50% of the total cost of $81,579.02, 50% from E-rate reimbursement from free cash to pay for Whitman's share of the cost of replacement of the UPS battery backup at the high school or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and a second. Discussion of 44. All right, all in favor of 44, say yes. Opposed, no. 44 is adopted unanimously. Article 45, to see if the town will vote to appropriate or reserve from fiscal year 2026 Community Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2026, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation. Appropriations from FY 2026, estimated revenue for committee administrative expenses, $10,000, not to exceed 5% of FY 2026 estimated revenues. Reserves from FY 2026, estimated revenues for historic resource reserve, $29,910, representing at least 10% of FY 2026 estimated revenues, plus at least 10% from the state match of FY 2025 collections. From FY 2026 estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $29,910, representing at least 10% of FY 2026 estimated revenues, plus at least 10% from the state match of FY 2025 collections. From FY 2026 estimated revenues for open space reserve, $29,910, representing at least 10% of FY 2026 estimated revenues, plus at least 10% from the state match of FY 2025 collections, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 45. All right, all in favor of Article 45, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 45 is adopted unanimously. Article 46, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation Historic Resource Reserve balance a sum of $1,100 to fund plaques for surveyed historic sites in Whitman, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 46. All right, all in favor of 46, say yes. Opposed, no. 46 is adopted unanimously. Article 47, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Community Preservation Historic Resource Reserve balance $75,000 to fund the restoration and preservation of Arch on Temple Street, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 47. All right, all in favor say yes. Opposed, no. 47 is adopted unanimously. Article 48, to see if the town will vote to transfer funds from the Community Preservation Housing Resource Reserve balance $65,000 to fund siding replacement for Pine Haven Drive, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 48. All right, all in favor of 48 say yes. Opposed, no. 48 is adopted unanimously. Article 49, to see if the town will vote to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Whitman Public Library Employees, SEIU Local 888, for the period commencing July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2028, with the cost items funded through monies appropriated as part of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget, Article 2, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Discussion of 49. All right. Yes, sir.
Bob Johnson, 52 Old Coach Road. I just got a quick question. I understand that all of the unions, the agreements were staggered over time, but due to COVID, it changed everything up. So I'm just kind of concerned that they all run to the same date. And so every time that, well, what is it, June 30th, 2028. So for these 5 unions, they're all going to be asking for more money. So when 28 comes around, you're going to be asking us for more money. So are we going to try to stagger these again? Or are we going to get hit by all of them at the same time?
All right. Is there someone who can address that? Ms. McNulty?
Thank you. The duration of a collective bargaining agreement is a mandatory subject of bargaining. We have to bargain that with our unions at the table. All we can say as to the successor agreement is that it commences on July 1 of, I believe it is 28, when these expire. However long those will be a function of what the town negotiates at that time.
Right. Other discussion of 49? Yes, Ms. Fox. Could you use the microphone, please?
Okay, I'm to understand then, to echo that gentleman, that the 2 million override, I was going to ask this earlier, it was negotiated for the, right now, if it's going to go to 2028, when we talked about successive overrides, we are definitely then looking at 1 in 27 or 28. That's what I get out of this. The next thing is that any possibility, I'd like to know too, one more thing. Who negotiates these contracts? The select board or the lawyers or who? Who's negotiating?
Ms. McNulty?
Is it a one person? Is it you? What is it?
The Board of Selectmen is the public employer under Mass General Laws, Chapter 150E. They are the entity that negotiates with each of its collective bargaining units. The Board of Selectmen names a liaison, one of their members, and identifies a bargaining team. The bargaining team may consist of the town administrator as well as legal counsel and whatever other management designees that the board feels is appropriate.
Right. Other discussion of 49?
I'd like to just add, all of these negotiations take place in executive session, do they not? And yet, we as taxpayers don't know the negotiation.
Pursuant to Mass General Laws, it's the open meeting law, I think it's chapter, there we go. There's an exception for executive session for collective bargaining, both the strategy as it relates to collective bargaining and the actual collective bargaining. However, once the bargaining is completed, the resulting agreements in the form of memorandums of agreement, sometimes referred to as memorandums of understanding, are brought forward into open session for a vote by the Board of Selectmen to ratify. Once the agreements are ratified, they are then subject to approval relative to the funding costs by the town meeting, and therefore we are here for those collective bargaining agreements that have been ratified to date.
All right. Other questions on 49? All right, all in favor of Article 49, say yes. Opposed, no. 49 is adopted unanimously. Article 50, to see if the town will vote to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Office of and Professional Employees International Union Local 6, AFL-CIO, for the period commencing July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2028, with the cost items funded through the monies appropriated as part of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget, Article 2, or take any other action relative thereto. We have a motion, a second. Discussion of 50? All right, all in favor of Article 50, say yes. Opposed, no. Article 50 is adopted unanimously. Article 51, to see if the town will vote to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, State Council 93, Local 1700, for the period commencing July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2028, with the cost items funded through monies appropriated as part of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget. Article 2 would take any other action relative thereto. Motion is second. Any discussion of 51? All right, all in favor of Article 51, say yes. Opposed, no. 51 is adopted unanimously. Ms. Carter?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to pass over Article 52 and 53.
Okay, we have a motion to pass over the last two articles here. Do we have a second? All right, discussion? Did we miss 48? Well, we've already voted on that. Right now, we have a motion on the floor to pass over Article 52 and 53. Okay, do we have any discussion of the motion to pass over these two articles? Ms. Carter?
The Article 58 and Article 59 are for the police union negotiations and the fire, and those two unions have not yet settled their contracts.
You mean 52 and 53?
I'm sorry, 52 and 53, yes.
Okay. Could you please use the microphone, Ms. Fox? We can't hear you unless you're on the microphone.
I must be really losing it. I thought this $2 million override included expenses for the town, for the services, for everything, and that your taxes will go up. I understand that. We would keep a minimal service. I thought I was going right along with this. When I walked in here, I did question, because when they had those meetings, they said there were 4 unions that hadn't resolved contract. I know about unions. This will be a problem, not just upstream. It's going to be a problem right now. You cannot vote for something and not know how to pay. That's like buying something on time.
We have a motion here to pass over these two articles. That's the motion. We would not consider them tonight. Is there any further discussion on passing over Articles 52 and 53? All right, then, all in favor of passing over 52 and 53, say yes. Opposed, no. Those Articles 52 and 53 then are passed over. Do we have another motion?
On Article 48,
I need a motion. We need a motion
the
to
motion
discuss.
is to change the address of what is reconsider. I don't know what you guys come up.
A motion to reconsider the vote on
Article 48.
On Article 48.
Yes.
All right, do we have a second? Okay, discussion of the motion to reconsider? Mr. Summers.
All right, so I'm informed that the issue here is, Peter Sumner from Town Council's office, I'm informed that the issue is that there is a incorrect address. This refers to Pine Haven Drive duplexes instead of Pine Circle. Because the mistake is in the comment, it doesn't affect the nature of the motion up above it or the approval of the article. Say it again? All right, I withdraw that.
Mr. Evans? Go ahead.
The article references 4 Pine Haven Drive duplexes, which are owned by private residences. The Whitman Housing Authority owns duplexes on Pine Circle, and that's what they're referencing to fix the siding on.
Okay. Mr. Evans? What's that? Is there anyone from the Housing Authority here who might be able to explain this? Apparently not. There are duplexes on Pine Haven Drive. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Hi. Patricia McKay, 26 East Ave, Whitman Housing Authority Vice Chair. I think this is just a typo. It's actually family housing through the Whitman Housing Authority, and I think it's just supposed to be Pine Haven Circle, and I'm not sure why, but it's a typo, I believe. And these are, run by the Whitman Housing Authority. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I think it's a typo. Am I correct, Ryan? It's a typo, right? I don't drive down Pine Haven that often, actually. I'm more familiar with Harvard Court.
Thank you. Justin Evans, Select Board. Our public safety officials are pretty sure that the Pine Haven Drive address is correct. The 4 duplexes at the end of the cul-de-sac are Pine Haven Drive, even though it enters the Housing Authority. So, or the last 4 before you get into the Housing Authority are town-owned family housing.
All right, other discussion of the motion to reconsider 48? All right, if there's no other discussion, we'll have a vote then on the motion to reconsider, which should, in other words, should we take up 48 again? All in favor of reconsidering our vote on Article 48, say yes. No?
No.
Okay, the motion fails. So 48 stands as we voted it in the warrant.
Thank you.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? We are adjourned. Thank you for coming out tonight.